Friday the 13th edition of the Armageddon Hour. Again, I'm Armageddon. It's a Friday the 13th. It's also a full moon, so. I got the Ultimate Slasher Edition as well, so it's going to come with costume packs, things like that, kill packs. The premise of the game is basically like the movies. You're at Camp Crystal Lake, running around, either being killed or you're killing. We're going to talk about this game I got, the Friday the 13th game. It's pretty cool, but it's definitely going to be more like an online game. So if you don't have Xbox Live, I would suggest you not buy it because, yeah, it's not going to be that much fun. Single player mode is pretty, I don't care much for it. But if you're a huge Jason fan like I am, then just it's got a few different laggy kind of things I didn't really care much for. It does this kind of teleport thing I don't really care much for. Like I said, if you're not a huge Jason fan, this is probably not going to be the game for you. It's definitely not like an intense first-person shooter or anything like that. But like I said, if you're a huge Jason nut like I am, it's cool just to have. It comes with a cool poster. If you get the Slasher Edition, it's going to come with some downloadable content. I got some footage with my drone. Didn't really get anything of the full moon. Got to get an aerial shot. The sky's kind of lit up. But unfortunately, got my drone stuck in a tree. And it's luckily the storm came through and blew it down. On to, actually, so I'll let you get a glimpse here, some gameplay of this Friday the 13th game. Shut the hell up.
And I didn't know what to spend this money on, so I decided to give it to you. If you ever have time on your hands, can you play COD Infinity War?
Some gameplay action here. This is what Wi-Fi's like when you live literally in the middle of nowhere.
No, I already have a weapon.
Really the worst.
Jason! Piss off! White Tide's gonna throw a knife. He's trying to throw knives through the friggin' window. Be careful.
Give yourself up to the police, you murderer.
I'm staying in here, man, where it's safe. I'm not going out there. Yeah, that's right. If he comes in here, blast him.
All right. Well, you get the point of what
Ah,
I'm
you're
getting
scared. Get down. He's trying to throw knives.
at. All right. Enough of that. Enough of that nonsense. All right. Anyways, also David McGreary. All right. Apparently, David McGreary was boarding with the Ralph family and sometimes acted as a babysitter for the Ralphs. Okay, I remember the story about this. So apparently this guy claims that he had some kind of entity come over him. Happened to be Friday the 13th, but it's pretty gruesome. These people were letting him live with them out of kindness. And unfortunately, this guy, while babysitting the kids, murdered the children. And unfortunately, not only did he murder the children, but then he took their bodies out front of the house and impaled them on spikes and left them there. But yeah, okay, they got a full documentary on this.
In relation to David McGreevy, Friday the 13th
McGreevy.
wasn't just a
Said his name
gothic
wrong.
movie, but a gothic reality.
If McGreevy had killed the children in the house, knocked them out and carried them, impaled them on the spike railings next to the house, people would have
Impaled them on the spike railings in front of the house.
Killing Street Murder and David McGreevy.
John, put yourself in my shoes and see how you would have felt. I would just berserk.
In Southport in 90,
That's David McGreevy. So yeah, super douchey this guy. Interesting story though. Horrific, horrible. Friday the 13th stuff. So this guy is, or was, I'm sure he's dead now. Hopefully he's dead now.
51 to Bella and Thomas McGreevy. He was the second eldest of 6 children and showed no signs of the man he would become.
The crimes committed by David McGreevy are just as viciously shocking as
Interesting
those
stuff
of
there.
John.
My cats freaking hate this dress.
Look! Look at them! They're everywhere!
Maybe they can see Valley 5th and Spring.
Now hold on. You ain't the first son of a bitch to wake up out of their dream.
See if we can move on here next to my next topic. Social credit system. Yeah, so I'm not sure if you've heard of this yet, but China has actually implemented a social credit score. It's kind of like they're going to be monitoring everything you do. They already do it. The difference is in China is, you know, it can hurt you. Whereas here, they just block your Facebook out for a month.
I've got one that can see.
He's a tall Caucasian male that doesn't appear armed, wearing sunglasses.
I don't like this one bit. Not one bit.
Crazy. If you're late on your water bill, you know, what are they gonna do over time? You know, they're just gonna take you out like a cow and hit you in the head with a stun gun.
Hell yes, we're gonna take your AR-15, your AK-47.
So this is also a thing that I'm not cool with. You know, you got China with a social credit score, and then you've got this guy Beto, who is, you know, he's totally a scummy federal cartel banking kind of paid off kind of guy. You know, they know Americans are not going to go for this crap. You know, we're free. We like to be free. You know, we don't need this stuff. permit for this reason. You know, you never know. You're gonna be sitting in a Waffle House, somebody's gonna come in there and try to kill you. So, best thing I can tell you as a citizen of the world, or wherever you're from, wherever you're watching this, if your legislation allows you to carry a firearm, now's the time to get your concealed carry permit. You need to get it now before they, who knows what's going to happen. Just depends on what goes on with politics and things like that. But yeah, here's Beto talking about confiscating AR-15s and rifles.
Hell yes, we're gonna take your AR-15. Hell yes, we're gonna take your AR-15. Hell yes, we're gonna take your AR-15.
Alright, enough of this douchebag. I don't want to hear his voice anymore. But anyways, yeah, literally said that. So, I'm from Tennessee. If you're not from Tennessee, then you're probably not as sympathetic with the whole gun issue as I am. I was just raised around guns, spent a lot of time on a farm growing up. And it's like a shovel. A gun's like a shovel. When you're a farmer, or you live on the land, or you live in a rural area like I do as well, I've got all kinds of animals around here. It take the police a good while to get up here. So that's why I definitely, got my concealed carry. Because sometimes you just got to take things in your own hands. You got to defend your own family. So that's all I'm saying. Just wanted you to hear it for yourself. This is a presidential candidate who is openly saying, we're going to take your guns. So it's a scary time. People are not going to give up their weapons. Like, American citizens are not going to give up their weapons. I know this. I'm telling you right now. If you're from somewhere where there's you're from a city where you haven't seen very many guns or been around them, they're scary to people who've never shot a gun. If you've never held a gun or shot a gun, and all you know is what you've seen or heard on TV, I can understand how you're not going to really like them. You're going to be like, well, I don't have them anyways. I don't really care. The point is, if you're a dumbass and you don't know what you're doing, I don't want to be around you holding a gun. I respect the fact that you have enough respect for others that you don't want a gun. Let's see. We'll get back into things that are to come. So I'm going to talk with David some about the fluoride in the water, some creepy stuff. Interesting fact is they first started putting fluoride in water. They were given to the Jews in the concentration camps. Hitler gave it to the Jewish people to keep them docile.
You had mentioned about before that with Germany.
Yes.
The initial use of fluoride.
One of the initial uses of fluoride before dentistry, they had our previous president, George W. His father was an industrialist and had his industry produced fluoride.
You're talking about Prescott?
Yes, Prescott. Okay. Prescott Bush.
Gotcha.
His companies produced fluoride. They didn't know what to do with this. They actually sold it to Germany during World War II to use to sedate the POWs, prisoners of war.
In the concentration camps.
In the concentration camps.
Because one of the side effects, or maybe not even a side effect, one of the intended effects of fluoride is...
If you want to look at it as a side effect, you can look at it as a side effect. But if you look at the race riots in the 60s, and which cities were fluoridated first, one questions whether it was a side effect or
an
not.
Intended effect.
Or an intended effect.
But regardless of whether it was intended or a side effect, what it does is it makes folks docile.
Yeah.
So, something to think about. Do you want to be drinking something that they were giving to people they were literally just murdering? No. It's going to make you dumb. That's why I don't drink the tap water. You cannot drink it. But this is a real issue, and I travel around with work and stuff a lot, and I can go somewhere and order water or something. I can smell this just ass water. You can smell the crap in it, especially in cities like Chicago or Memphis. Even Memphis. I was in Memphis, and in a restaurant, a really good barbecue restaurant, but you know, order water. They bring me the water, and I can literally, because I refuse to drink tap water. You know, I don't drink it. And if you don't drink the tap water, if you cut yourself off from this tap water, you can smell the chemicals in tap water. You know, you can taste it and smell it. It's not good for you. I highly recommend getting a filter. Yeah. But that's going to be an exciting episode. I can't wait to talk with David about that. The fluoride, he's been advocating about this for years. It's actually a really interesting subject here. Let's see here.
But apart from toothpaste, it's not listed on labels.
So it is coming into one's body through many sources, and you are not aware of it.
The fluoride that goes into our drinking water is toxic waste from the production of fertiliser.
For maybe 100 years, the phosphate fertilizer industry put out two very, very poisonous gases into the environment, hydrogen fluoride and silicon tetrafluoride. Eventually, they were required to capture those, and they did it with a wet spray, water, and that water converts these two very toxic gases into hexafluorosilicic acid. And it's this scrubbing liquor, which is about 25% strong, is put into tanker trucks, driven around the country, and added to our drinking water.
Here's what's in the mix made in Australia. A sickening cocktail of heavy metals like arsenic, barium, beryllium, cadmium, lead, mercury, and on it goes. And in much higher concentrations than is allowed for lead and arsenic.
Why should you make people drink a poisoned water?
Well, it's forced medication for the masses. And there are more than 1,000 doctors and scientists around the world who, like Professor Shashila, condemn what's going on.
The problem with adding medicine to water is an obvious one of consent, that people can't give their informed consent, which is a basic.
You know, the most notorious air pollution disaster in U.S. history was the Halloween air pollution incident in Donora, Pennsylvania, a mill town south of Pittsburgh, where a couple of dozen people and several thousand were injured because of effluents coming from a U.S. steel plant, which were trapped by a temperature inversion. In the aftermath of those deaths, a researcher, Philip Stadler, a chemist, Philip Stadler, investigated. He did blood analysis, and he measured high levels of fluoride in the blood of some of the injured and the deceased. He published that data along with data which found high levels of fluoride in vegetation and a lot of other circumstantial evidence indicating fluoride poisoning. Sadler published his research in Chemical and Engineering News, but the Public Health Service came in and said that fluoride wasn't responsible. It was a mixture of air pollutants and bad weather that had caused the disaster. Well, I uncovered a memo, Paul, a memo from the Aluminum Company of America in which they had secretly gotten blood from one of the deceased. And their measurements were almost exactly the same measurements that Philip Sadler found. Laundering fluoride's role in the Donora pollution incident is really emblematic for what has happened for the last half century and an accounting for why environmentalists don't know their own history. Donora jump-started the environmental movement, but environmentalists don't know that Donora was almost certainly caused by fluoride.
So apparently the town, they voted, actually, it was voted out. They said, we don't want this in our water.
European countries do not fluoridate. Austria, Belgium, the Netherlands, France, Germany, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Iceland, Italy, Greece, Portugal. The overwhelming number of countries in the world do not fluoridate, and guess what? Their teeth are just as good, if not better.
You know, we're voting it out. So they voted to remove it, and then all of a sudden, they were like, oh, we can't take it out of the water.
Gotcha. His companies produce fluoride. They didn't know what to do with this. They actually sold it.
So it was really frustrating for this guy, I'm sure. And it's not just him, there's a whole group of people from more in-depth information on the topic of hydrofluosilicic acid and the human health issues. Hey, don't make fun of me because I can't pronounce it, alright? Just because you're a genius. That's not how you pronounce it. It's hydrofluosilicic. Anyways, fluoride is what I refer to it as. So, on the topic of fluoride in our waters, or hydrofluosilicic acid, and the human health issues associated with fluoridated water, referred to ACPOHI.WIS. Some more information about that. Again, like I said, I can't wait to have some guests on. If you're watching this and you're a musician, I've got a full studio here. Love to have some bands on in the future, or singer-songwriters, just people from the community, friends of mine. Should be shooting some stuff soon with Wilbur Hunter over Toxic Teas and Melamine Moonshine Distillery. Looking forward to that. That should be pretty cool. Maybe even get the corned beef and the Pillbillies on here. Probably gonna happen. Excited about that as well. You should be too. But yeah, more to come.
You weren't invited.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Send me a kiss, my wine. Baby, my heart's on fire. If you refuse me, honey, you lose me. Then you'll be left alone. Oh, baby, telephone and tell me I'm your own.
Check, please.